The fly that I'm tying here is one that I call my LDO Spider, and I tie it to imitate the large dark olives that we see hatching on our rivers in the spring and again in the autumn. As a fly tyer, I often think of triggers in my flies, i.e. what will trigger the fish into taking the fly or having a look at it. And I've often noticed that the segmentation in the nymph, emerger and newly hatched duns of the large dark olive is quite pronounced. And this pronounced or ribbing or segmentation may act as a trigger. So in this particular pattern I've used yellow Glo-brite floss for the rib. I don't know if this is the trigger, but the fly works, so I hope you like it. So I've got a hook in the vise, and I'm going to start with a thread a couple of millimetres back from the eye of the hook. Unwind down the shank a few turns to secure the thread. Then I'll snip away the waste and then carry on down the hook shank towards the bend and stop just before the point of the hook. And now I'm going to take some yellow Glo-brite floss number 10, and I'm going to bring that in under the thread and use the floss to lift the thread and lower it onto the top of the hook shank. I'll pull that through till we've got a short stub, and then I'm going to take a few turns to secure it and stop the thread about level with the hook point or just past it. And now we're ready to dub the body. So I'm going to use this olive brown Hare-Tron, and I'm just going to dub some onto the thread. Just a couple of inches initially, and then I'll wind back up the hook shank towards the eye to form the body of the fly. So we'll just wind that up. I'm going to stop where we started the thread at the beginning, so a couple of millimetres back from the eye. Now I'm going to take the floss for the rib, and because this is a multi-filamented material, I've twisted it a few times to tighten it up, so we've got a tight rope, and then I'm winding up the body, oh, it slipped there, up the body of the fly in the opposite direction to the direction I dubbed in. And I'm doing this in relatively even spaced open turns. Take 2 or 3 wraps to secure it. Snip away the unwanted section. And now I'm going to cover that stub and form a base for the head hackle. The thread I'm using here is UTC, and it is, again, a bit like the floss, it's multi-filamented and it can loosen. So just spin it a few times to tighten it up if it starts to open up. Right, that's the stub covered, and my base for the hackle. Now I've got a Mallard hackle here, and I'm just going to hold the tip and strip away at the base of the feather. I'm stripping away, I'm working out how much I want for the hackle and what length I want, and then strip away the unwanted material at the base. Once I've done that, I'll hold the tip and I'm going to just stroke the fibres back, and this section here is the section I'm using for the hackle. So I'm just judging how much I want. Normally I want about 4 to 5 millimetres, sorry. I'll turn that round and snip away the point to leave a short stub, and I've got the feather now so that the outside of the feather is facing away from the hook and the inside of the feather is against the hook. Now I'm going to secure that stub with 4 or 5 tight turns. Make it relatively tight because you don't want this slipping out when you get hold of it with the hackle pliers. So now I'm going to take the hackle pliers, stand that up, and I'm just going to stroke those fibres back towards the bend of the hook. And now I'm going to wind that hackle on. And as you do it, just keep stroking those fibres back, or even hold them back a little bit if you want. We want those leaning back towards the bend of the hook. That's it. And once I've used that section up, hold that in position and take a couple of turns of thread to secure it. I can release it now with the hackle pliers. Cut away that unwanted stub, and at this point you can either tie the fly off, or if you want, just take the point of the scissors and separate some of those fibres. They do hold together on these feathers, so just take the point of the scissors and just stroke them through to separate them where you need to. Now I'll just hold that back, take a few turns to form the head, and then I'll do a whip finish to finish the fly off. Again, if that thread's opened up a little bit, just give it a few turns to tighten it up. Now we'll do a whip finish and finish the fly off. That's it. As usual, I'll use the scissors to control that loop as it comes into the head of the fly, and I can snip away the thread. Well, there's a little bit of fibre there I'll cut off. That's it. Now before I varnish or seal the head of the fly, I'm just going to tidy it up a little bit. There's still a few fibres knitted together, so I'm just using the point of the scissors to separate them. Just work around the fly, picking out any fibres that are knitted together. That's not bad. Happy with that. There's just a fibre from the dubbing sticking out at the bend of the hook. I'm just going to pull that off. Come on. That's it. Right, now I'll take some varnish and varnish or seal the head of the fly, and then it's finished. That's okay, and now I'll zoom in and give you a closer look. I'll give it a little twirl in the vise. There's just a couple of fibres there knitted together. I'm going to separate them. That's it, that's fine. Give it a little twirl so you can have a good look around it. One more twirl, and that's us done. And that is my large dark olive spider. As I said at the start, it works well for me in the spring and again in the autumn when we get hatches of large dark olives. So I hope you like it, and if you decide to try it, I hope it works for you too.